Welcome, my friends. I love it that my computer reminds me when I'm muted. My little friend. So one of the things that was occurring to me today as I was thinking about us getting together is absorbing and letting attention bloom in us rather than bounce off. I was thinking of the contrast between bloom and bounce off, and that most of people's attention and exchange of attention is what I would call a bounce off, that it just bounces off and bounces off. And so at the end of the day, instead of feeling nourished, you can feel exhausted because you've just had all of this attention pinging and none of it's actually landed and bloomed in you. So I wanted to just have you review just the last couple of days and think about, has your attention, your exchange of attention been blooming or has it been bouncing off? And what contributes first to the bouncing off? One of the things for me that contributes is if I get speedy. So when I get speedy, I actually get a little bit ahead of my attention. So if it came back to me, it's like I'm not there to receive it. You know, like when you're running down the field and someone's throwing a ball at you and you don't bother to kind of turn around and, and receive it. And it literally can bounce off of you. And so just take a moment and notice what might be contributing to a bounce off of attention. So for me, the speediness I'll notice because I'll start bumping into things. So you can also, like, what are the signals that your body is letting you know that you're not moving or exchanging attention at a speed that allows it to actually bloom in you? One of the images I was thinking about, I have a lovely fountain pen. I've always loved to write with fountain pens, even though I'm a lefty. So you can always tell if I've written with a fountain pen because I carry the mark, on my left hand. Otherwise, I'm, going upside down and backwards and turning myself into a pretzel. But a fountain pen, if you put a fountain pen, the point of it on a tissue, a Kleenex, it will bloom. And there's a sense of both soaking in and spreading out. And so I wanted to invite you to let yourself experience both letting your attention go out. You might let your attention go out to somebody on the call, maybe somebody you haven't seen before, whose face is unfamiliar, and just let your attention land on them and inviting them to bloom. And then bringing that attention back to you and noticing where that wants to land in your body. And what can you do to assist it blooming? So I see some of you touching. I see some of you, it looks like you're expanding your breath. So let yourself experiment for a few minutes with landing and blooming, and then receiving and blooming. And letting yourself play with that. Like I'm just noticing now my left hip is saying me, 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 me. So I'm letting my attention land on my hip. And then what I find really helps me is to settle. It's like I'm, cuddling. It feels like one of my cats cuddling. One of my cats circles and circles and circles and then finally gets just the right spot. And then she goes, she kind of puddles. So notice what kind of inner movement allows you to let it bloom. So for me, it's always a little bit of movement, because I think a lot of us get attention associated with pay attention. So we freeze up. So what if blooming were like the attention were like warm water, like I was taking this bath last night and just putting my foot into the water and that sense of spreading out. for me comes with a little bit of a wiggle. So the fear melters might be very helpful to you to let things bloom. So wiggling or oozing, touching, love scooping to an area that you want to let bloom. And then rather than going, okay, we did that, now let's go off to the next, is staying there, and enjoying the blooming. So for me, the touch, so I'm touching this place on my back, and I can feel the warmth of my hand against my back. And between them, there's this experience of blooming that, And so for me, it also comes with breath. If I'm, in adrenaline breathing, that doesn't give me enough juiciness to let bloom. But when I'm breathing into the place that I might be touching, and excuse me, and letting my body move in a way that supports that, I experience this delicious blooming. And for me, it also comes with a kind of settling, where it is a kind of an inner rooting, because I experience myself here. Here I am. So you might want to add to that an an out breath or a So all of those different sensations allow you to let the attention come directly into your body, because so much we go up and go, I'm a little faster today, though we'll judge it, or that place hurts again. Why is that hurting again? And so we go heady. And that, I think, also prevents us from letting it bloom. So I want to invite you to let that exchange go out again to maybe somebody that you haven't noticed before, and letting your curiosity, your appreciation. That's another element that I find allows for blooming, is if I send an intention with my attention. So it can be an intention of curiosity, like, how is it for you today? Or it could be an appreciation of something about, the light in somebody's face, or the way that you feel when you look at them. So letting yourself add in now appreciation or curiosity, and letting that land. So I find when I'm out in the world that people are looking for connection. And if I simply let myself be there long enough to let a couple of loops of attention exchange, there's this lovely blooming that happens. So I was at the farmer's market yesterday. I want to invite you to do this while you're listening to me, because that's part of the art form. So can you loop while listening? So yeah, for those of you who've been here for a little while, that's kind of, more spinning more plates. And if one drops, you go, okay, back to the basics, and, letting myself have that landing and blooming. But when I was at the farmer's market, there's a poetry guy there, and he writes spontaneous poetry for people. He has this natty hat on and a vest and a tie, and he's at his little typewriter, like Lucy, at her typewriter. And I was going by, and I got into a conversation. He was talking about what's happened to men's fashion. And, since I'm really interested in color and fashion, and I always wear something celebratory to the farmer's market. So I was talking with him, and then I noticed that there was a fellow over to my left, and I could see him, yearning. He was yearning he wanted to be part of the connection. And so I just turned my attention to him, and I did what I'm asking you to do, is I gave him my attention with curiosity. And then I don't remember exactly what I appreciated about him, but I appreciated him. And he was saying, well, you're dressed pretty nattily yourself this morning. And we had this just this lovely little exchange. And, my sense is that that is available to us all the time as we're moving through the world, is that moment of recognizing, of being together. I really consider it that kind of presencing is sharing love with others. And so I felt great as because as I was leaving, and I could tell that this older fellow, he looked like, he had come for some connection. And so I just felt wonderful about being available, because that's the other thing. If I'm, in my own little bounce off, I'm not available for these precious moments that are really irreplaceable of connection. So the for me, the gateway in is to find the pace. That's for me the quickest, almost always going too fast. To actually notice and have the sinking in, the blooming, rather than the bounce off. So as you're noticing yourself, notice if there is more ways that your body wants to respond. Because we often, monitor our bodies and control them, like, behave yourself, and don't get too wild, and, and don't look silly, and, all of those things that we tell ourselves. And what if, when you gave yourself attention, now you simply let your body respond however it wants to respond? So, like landing on yourself and then letting your body respond however it wants to respond. And you don't know, because your head is up here, busy, and your body is going, I have something to say, I have something to express. So letting yourself drop into, and then letting your attention go out with curiosity and appreciation. I'm letting mine land on my feline, who's over here on the couch with her nose tucked into the bed. And so I'm just appreciating her gloriousness and letting that bloom in her. And as I do that, her breathing changed. So her breathing deepened and softened. So if you're aware, there are signals all the time that your attention is working, that the connection is happening. There'll be some kind of blooming that you can then receive as another kind of appreciation. So what if you could let yourself just be as wild and as weird as you wanted to? This is a great season to do that. Yes, so that when attention comes, so I've sometimes, someone's giving me attention, I go, whoa, that was great, thank you. Or, just letting my body fully receive it rather than being normal, or don't bring too much attention to yourself. So if you can, let yourself just play with landing, blooming, letting your body respond. And as I was doing that too, my lower body was saying, hey, how about me? How about, because we're often sitting when we do this. It's very different, I think, as we're moving around the world. But letting yourself, let your attention land in your legs or in your feet, and let them respond. So my feet are going, oh, thank you. I've got little in my feet, because even inside ourselves, we might not experience ourselves as whole. We might experience parts of our body missing, in our attention. So you might take a moment also to let the landing happen in different places and the blooming happening in different places, and letting your body respond. And if you look around to see how other people are letting the blooming happening, you can learn new ways of letting that happen for you. And I wanted to also share with you, I was, getting ready this morning, and Gay was getting ready to go off to the gym, where he has been able to take himself to the gym for the last month or so, which is great. And he came up with something. He said, you should have outtakes of these that you call oops and scoops rather than loops and scoops. And so this is how I know that Gay is really getting better, because he's a very, very funny guy. And when his humor comes back, that expansion, what it puts me in mind of as an attention is like lighting more lights inside. And I can sense that and experience that happening for Gay as more of him is coming online as he's healing. It's like more lights are coming on. And I invite you to let yourself notice that as you practice, particularly loop of awareness, it literally lights you up and makes your blooming and your light available for others. As I was illustrating at the farmer's market, because as I go around, people want to connect with me because I've been practicing this for a long time and I'm available. So as you're available, you can have more and more nourishment of attention through the whole week. And I'm now going to pull up our Presence Connect play and see what we have for today. So my Presence Connect play has been favoring wonder for the last couple of weeks, which I'm really happy about. So Presence says wonder, which is a great reminder that the sound, particularly through a whole out breath, try it on a couple of times, the that spreading out into the moves you from critical brain to wonder brain. So that's one thing that the does. And it's also a great way to precede a question that you're curious about, is to, I wonder, and then something that you're genuinely wondering about, and you can let that then circulate in you. And I find that incredibly powerful. And then, and just to make sure we get it, Connect also says create, So I'm getting, the universe is going, Benu, nenu, And I also find the is just such a gentle way. For me, it adds to the blooming. When I then all that attention can circulate in me. And then the one that I just changed is notice, let's see, where we go. Take it back to where it was here. We have a lot under play. This is great. Mirror the other. So mirroring is a way of also giving and receiving attention. So you might look at somebody on the call whose energy you enjoy, the connection with whom you really enjoy, and let yourself mirror some aspect of what they're doing. Like I'm mirroring a little bit of that lovely oozing that Rhonda is doing right now. And as I do that, I get, which amplifies my ah. So allowing us all to be playmates, sharing, landing, blooming with each other. Lovely, lovely. Face flapping, love face flapping, blooming. All right. So I'm going to be moving on. And thank you so much for being here today. And please stay and have big talk as long as you like. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye now.